All righty, we are live and talking about voting in Fort Collins across the country, Colorado and Larimer County, and it's important. Recently, as of this year, actually, I've been watching City Council every Tuesday. Well, not every Tuesday, watching the reruns pretty much every Wednesday, their work sessions. And it's super important because there are things that are impacting our daily lives directly. We will see these potential sales tax increases, property tax increases, school board elections, and how Poudre School District moves forward, and lots of important things that are happening that we as citizens and residents of Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, Loveland, Larimer County, all the above will see pretty immediately comparatively to national elections. Yeah, those are important. Those are important too, but definitely wanting to pay attention. We saw 112,000 registered voters in Fort Collins in 2021, and about 42,000 turned out to vote. Anywhere between 35 to 45% for a municipality is pretty common, but this is an opportunity for you to have a chance to get out and vote and do your research. I definitely, spend some time to do it. And hopefully this 12 to 15 minute vote kind of discussion will at least help you understand the items of, that are up to be voted on. Not necessarily talking to you about how you should vote or where you should vote, but just what there is to vote on. And then that way you can go out and vote. It is too late to mail in any ballots at this point, so you would need to do a drop-off location. There's 11 drop-off locations in Fort Collins and 4 in Loveland. So you will have to do that. Make sure to drop that off by November 7th. So the mayor and city council votes positions are up. Not all of them, but some of them. These are for 2-year terms. Mayor Jenny Arndt and a write-in candidate. I don't have that write-in candidate's name. So I'm sorry about that, but Mayor Jenny Arndt and then a write-in candidate that is up. Councilmember District 2, Eric Hamrick versus Julie Pignatera. I don't know if versus is the right word, but because they aren't going against each other. They're going against platforms and things that they stand on and representations that they want to make and move forward. So they're not versus each other. That's a poor way to discuss it, but it's about what they stand for and if that aligns with what your values are and how you want to be represented at City Council. District 4, Shirley Peel or Melanie Poitiandi, and District 6, Alexander Adams and Emily Francis. So again, these are opportunities for you to have your voice heard. And a good kind of analysis is the land use code that has been voted on. And there was a discussion that this should go to the people, and I am completely against having it go to the people, the land use code, because ultimately it is 400 some odd pages, extremely detailed. City staff spends years putting this together, and city council members pour into this and have experts help them understand it better. They ask questions directly versus what we would see on a vote and have a little blip it. And maybe people are doing research, but ultimately changing the dynamics of how City of Fort Collins, is ran through the real estate and residential development side of things. But what you can do to have your voice heard is voting on a council member that aligns with how you feel about these certain topics. Now, you can't always promise how they're going to vote in the future per se, but their values and what they stand for and things of that nature, if they align with how you feel the city should be ran, well, then maybe they won't vote on such big issues at hand. So this is an opportunity if you're in any of those 3 districts to vote for your council member, or if you're across the city of Fort Collins, you can vote for mayor as well. Poudre School District, which covers 1,800 square miles, pretty much all the way to the Wyoming border. There are 4 districts up to be voted on. There's 7 total. One is unopposed, District A. District B, Kevin Havolda or Kurt Castine. District F, Andrea Booth or Connor Duffy, and District G, Jessica Zamora and Caleb Larson. This is important because there's some big issues that are going on right now within our school system, Poudre School District. There's consolidation of schools. There is reduced funding, declining enrollment, which Maybe a little bit. It was kind of interesting to see some of those numbers. A lot of it was pandemic related. People pulling their kids out to go to public charter schools or Montessori, public or private homeschooling. But it seems like we're actually backward on the upward trend. But where those kids are going to school, in Wellington and Timnath, and then places like Blevins and Olander are losing student enrollment. And those are assets that are going to require a lot of money. There's going to be some difficult decisions being made over the coming years. My kids are 5, 4, and 20 months. So definitely did a little bit of reading on each one of those candidates, what they kind of stood for and what they have to do, but they're ultimately going to have to make some tough decisions moving forward. AC in schools. Do we put in $20 million worth of AC and HVAC into the schools, or do we start schools a little bit later and they get out a little bit later? Conversations that are going to have to be had within that school board and decisions that will be made from those individuals. But a couple of big items that are going to be on the ballot for the state portion is Proposition HH. What this would do is temporarily reduce your property taxes, a tax assessment rate, and also your standard deduction. And in lieu, and then basically how the state would make up for it for the counties and school districts will be taking portions of the state overage and refunding that to the counties to make up for those differences and schools. On this one, I'm not saying how you should vote, but I'm actually going to vote no on this one. And the reasoning is it's clear as mud. I mean, honestly, I spent about 2 hours today researching it and the pros, the cons. If they're going to do any type of property tax overhaul, I don't think necessarily you should be taking out of one pocket and putting it into the other pocket. Tabor refunds would decrease across the board. They would go to more of a flat rather than a tiered. Do renters get positively impacted or negatively? Generally speaking, it sounds like their actually refund would go up a little bit, but they don't get the property tax break that other individuals would have. So, it's definitely, it was a 48-page bill that was passed last November that that is being voted on now. For me, if we're going to do any type of property tax overhaul, I think we need to do it and have it much more clear and have an overhaul property tax kind of discussion. And then Proposition 2, this is the only two things that I'm going to say kind of exactly how I'm going to vote. Proposition 2 talks about without raising taxes, they had an overage of taxes collected from tobacco, nicotine, and cigarette users. And rather than refunding them based off of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, they are wanting to keep those and disperse it to preschools, because that's what that tax was for preschool throughout Colorado. Hey, I'm all about if you're you can tax as much as you want, for my opinion, on tobacco, cigarettes, nicotine. Go for it. And honestly, if you wanted to tax more on alcohol and energy drinks, I drink alcohol, I drink energy drinks, but probably not necessarily the best for me. And maybe people make decisions based off of their pocketbook. So if the taxes increase, if the cost of cigarettes, nicotine, all that kind of stuff increases, or energy drinks and alcohol, maybe people don't do it as much. Or maybe they do, who knows? But so anytime there's a tax on tobacco, nicotine, all that good stuff, I'm all for it. So I am voting yes for that one. Citywide initiatives. Here are some conversations that people need to have and discuss is, should the city increase our sales tax by basically 0.5%? And we're currently at 7.55%. So this would put us up near 8%, which was interesting. I looked at some of the national averages for sales taxes within municipalities, anywhere between 7 to 10%. But there's definitely places like Portland, Oregon, 0% sales taxes, but people get their money in different ways. Do we have the amenities and the infrastructure to be a higher sales taxed municipality? I don't know. What this would go to would be for parks and recreation, 50% of it, 25% to greenhouse gases, and 25% to city transit. This is a big one. It's going to impact you at anytime you go buy anything. It's going to impact you, and it's for the betterment of the city of Fort Collins. I'm all about that. I don't know where I'm going to vote yet. I have not made this decision. I would say I'm leaning towards no, not increasing the sales tax. And we're going to have to make some cuts possibly on our parks and recreation. Again, difficult decisions like there's going to have to be at the school boards. We can't just continually increase our revenue and taxes. We are going to have to make some, decisions that maybe decrease our expenses and not necessarily increase our revenue. So I'm not necessarily there yet on my no vote. I do think it's important that we have public transportation, that, City of Fort Collins continues to work on their modes of transportation, but that's ballot issue 2A. All right, the next one is the city initiated ballot issue 2, increase the mill levy by 3 mills in the city of Fort Collins for affordable housing. Again, I don't know where I'm at with this. I think it's extremely important that we have affordable housing in Fort Collins, but do I think that it's the responsibility of all homeowners to pay for affordable housing? There's people who've lived in their house for 30, 40 years who are on a fixed income, and they already just got smacked with a 40% increase. And if Proposition HH doesn't pass, their property taxes are basically going up by 40%, which is pretty significant. And then we're going to hit them with another 3 mills. Possibly what we need to do if our intention is affordable housing, and I agree with that, it's maybe provide these developers massive incentives to come and build affordable housing, expedited processes, which the land use code would do. Any affordable housing project would just go basically through a basic review development and start rocking and rolling. And we can get, I think it's Proposition 21, I believe it is, or 121, that we would get state funding to help build these affordable projects. So yes, I do think it's important. Do I think it's the responsibility of all homeowners to contribute to affordable housing? Or is it the responsibility of the city of Fort Collins to make it attractive enough for developers to build? Now, that being said, I think the city of Fort Collins has done a great job. The Downtown Development Authority, Housing Catalyst, and the city of Fort Collins built, I believe it's 140 Oak Street. It's a beautiful project, 72 affordable housing units. Gorgeous. I know a friend that lives there, right downtown. Middle management individuals, restaurant managers, people who aren't necessarily making 6 figures, but can still afford to live in downtown and not necessarily have to drive to work, increasing their gas. I think it's extremely important, and I don't know if this is necessarily the right way to go about it. Maybe it is. I still have not necessarily decided. There's a couple individuals that I'm going to reach out to get their take, who are experts in the affordable housing kind of world. But again, this is something that you as a voter in Fort Collins might need to look at and see where you stand and what you feel like, and make that decision for yourself. And then there's 3 city proposed charter amendments. I'm going to vote yes for all 3. Can felons go for basically city seats? And essentially that's a statewide. I think the town of Aurora actually got sued and lost because they would not allow felons of certain types of felons to run for public seats. The next one is, let's see here, the repeal. If a city wants to repeal an ordinance that has been passed, clearing up the language to make it easier. When the land development code passed, this kind of prompted this. It wasn't necessarily super clear language of what was needed. This would allow the charter to be cleared up for people to understand it a little bit better. And then finally, Charter Amendment number 3, allowing certain people within the city of Fort Collins, employees, to live outside of Fort Collins and not required by charter to live within Fort Collins. Again, some of these salaries and incomes aren't necessarily accommodating enough to where they can afford to buy in Fort Collins. And maybe they're the right person for the job, but it makes more sense for them or their family to live outside of Fort Collins for cost of living or something along those lines, and not restrict them from being able to work here. So all 3 of those things I'm going to be voting yes for. I don't see any questions at this time, and we're just about at our 15 minutes. Hey, some things to do real quick. November 3rd, lighting ceremony, downtown, 5:30 to 7. Lights go on at 6:30. That's tomorrow night. Enjoy the heck out of it. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm sure we will go and do that. And then also November 16th at 6:30 p.m., the League of Women Voters are going to have a forum and will tackle the pros and cons of metro districts. 147 metro districts in, what is it? I think it's in Larimer County. So, it's a very big tool used by developers in Larimer County to build developments, and they're about as clear as mud. Each semi-quasi-governmental bodies that basically start their own government, out of thin air. And each one has its own rules to live by, very similar for a lot of them. But listen to that if you are interested in buying in a metro district or live in a metro district. November 16th, 6:30 p.m. There is a Zoom link. Feel free to reach out for me and I can get you that if you would like. That being said, I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Make sure you guys get out and vote. 11 locations in Fort Collins. Drop it off. Do not mail it. The mail time period has passed. So get out, drop off your mail ballot or your ballot in a drop box, and have your voice be heard. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care.